Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial I will show you how to make your player feel more responsive in this type of games. Okay, so in this scene we have a very basic scene setup. In this scene we have a main camera, we have a directional light, we have the ground, the player and bunch of obstacles. So in ground we have nothing fancy. We just have a slippery material attached to the box collider. In the slippery material we just set the dynamic friction and the static friction to 0, and in the player we have a box collider, we have a rigid body, and we have some two scripts attached which I will go through later, and in the obstacles we just have the box collider and the rigid body. Okay, so in the player we have two basic scripts, one is for player move and one is for camera. In camera we have just the camera variable and one offset variable. This script will help the camera to follow the player as the player is moving. So this script is very basic. We just set the camera's position to transform.position, which is the player's position, plus the offset. So this script is very simple, as you can see. And then we have the player move script, in which we have three variables as I showed you: the rigid body, the forward force and the side force. And on update method we add the force in the forward direction and multiply with delta time. And if D is pressed, which is to go the right side, we add side force towards the right side with delta time, and for A we just do the vice versa at left side. So let's first test our game and see how it feels to play like this. Okay, so as we are playing, say I want to go to the left side, I am pressing A. Now if I want to go right side, I press D, but it takes very long, and it doesn't go only to the, it hardly goes to the left side, hardly goes to the right side. So let's try again. Say I want to go to the right side. Now if I press A, it doesn't go to the left side, or it takes very long. So I'm showing one last time. See, pressing D and pressing A, but it takes very long time. It just stays in there to counter the inertia that we got from before. Okay, so we don't want that effect. What we want is that we want the player to feel more responsive. When we press left, it goes to the left. When we press right, it goes to the right. We want that. By that, the game feels more fun to play. Actual player feels that he has the control over the character in the game. So in that sense, the game feels more fun. Now doing this is very simple. First I'll tell you what we want to do actually, and then I'll show you in code how to do it. So if the player is moving to the left side, is moving to the right side, and we press A, so we want to apply a much bigger force to the left side, so that the velocity towards the right is countered, and same for the opposite. But if the player is already moving to the right side and the player again presses D to go to the right side, so we don't want to apply that much of a big force. But lastly, the third condition is that if the player is already moving to right side with a very higher force and it still presses right side, we don't want to add much force. We want to add a very small little force. So we have three cases. We have if the player is moving to the right but not so much with speed, so and again presses right, so we want to add a normal force. If the player is already moving to right with max speed, we want to add a very little force. And if the player is moving towards the right and he presses left, so we want to add a very large force towards the left side, so that the right force is countered. These three things we want to do. So for that, what we want to do is that we want to create a variable f, and the f is 1f. So 1f means normal force. Anything larger than 1 means a greater force, and smaller than 1 means smaller force. So we want to get the velocity of the player, to know with how much speed the player is moving. So for that we should create a vector 3, and let's name it velocity, and here we will get the player's velocity. So what we will do is that we'll see if velocity dot x is less than 0, that means the player is moving towards the left side. So we want to add a very large force. So we can say that f equals to 12 times 12f. So we can say that it's 12 times larger force, like a lot bigger force. So let's rename the variable to factor so that it's more readable. and if it's just moving towards the right side, which means that it's more than 0, so we just want to keep it at 1. But if it's more than some maximum value, let's say 15, if it's more than 15, that means it's already at a very higher speed. We want to add a very small force, 0.25, 0.2f, and lastly we want to multiply it here. That's what we want to do. Now same thing for the left side. We just want to reverse this to more than, and reverse this to less than, and we want to make it minus, and again add factor here. So now it should work in theory. Let's test. Okay, so now we are moving towards the left side, and now we press right, move the right side, and now it's left, and you can see that it's much more responsive than before, and it feels that you have control over it. So that's what I wanted to show you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.